What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. Today I have for you the Arran 14-year-old. Okay, this particular bottle now replaces the 12-year-old. Okay, so they're no longer making the 12-year-old, and they've replaced it with this 14-year-old, which will be a standard for the Arran line. It's bottled at 46%. It's not chill filtered, no added color, much like most of Arran's products, if not all now. Okay, in the packaging, which is actually really nice, okay, we have this little booklet that talks about pure by nature. Okay, that's the Arran's slogan, because they want to make sure that people know they're doing things the right way. They're doing things without added color. They're doing things without chill filtering their product. They're bottling at 46% or higher, except for that Robert Burns that was 43%. But for the most part, they're bottling at around 46% or higher. I believe the Arran Amarone finish is 50%. Okay, ABV. So I'm not 100% sure, but when I get the bottle in my possession, it's currently mine, but my friend is holding on to it until I meet him next, which should be this weekend. And by that point, I'll know for sure what it says on the bottle. But from what I remember reading, it's about 50%. So I've had some time to try this. If you are a subscriber of mine and you have been for a while, you've probably seen this on my desk for quite some time now. I drink it periodically, taking a sample here and there, writing down some notes, because it's changed from the first time I opened it to now. All right, and I will say it's gotten better. Every time I have another dram of this, it's that much better. Okay, so nose it, taste it, same old deal, and then we'll give it a mark. Right? As you can see, it's not super dark. It's a combination of bourbon and sherry, but that's only for the last 2 years. So the whiskey's aged in casks, likely refilled bourbon casks, for about 12 years. And then for 2 years, it is aged in fresh bourbon and sherry casks. Okay, and then I guess that's why this one now replaces the old 12-year-old, because they stopped using those older barrels and now they're using the fresh to finish for the last 2 years for this particular dram, the 14-year-old. Okay, get a lot of apple with Arran. All right, that's showing here too. Get some berries as well. That's coming probably from the sherry finish. I believe there are sherry hogsheads that were used for this. I'm curious to know how much of that finish at the end was in the sherry casks and how much was in the bourbon casks. Okay, I'm assuming they're both first fill, because from everything I've read, it says fresh bourbon and fresh sherry casks. So that could mean first fill, but I'm not 100% sure. This is an apple orchard. Very sweet on the nose, lots of fruit. Some honey. So if the same juice is used for this and the sherry cask finish that I previously did, something's different for sure. Maybe it's the type of sherry cask, or maybe it's the juice before it. Maybe it's the whiskey that's used before, because I'm not picking up any of those meaty notes, those savory notes. None of that's here, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. Okay, it's nice and sweet on the nose. I did see somewhere there was a description of what they think we should smell. All right, rich, warming spice and caramelized fruits with a layer of toffee and milk chocolate. I do smell a lot of, and then somewhere down the line it talks about licorice. I do smell a lot of sweet notes. I wouldn't say it's as chocolatey as some of the other types of sherried casks or sherried whiskeys that I've had. Okay, on the palate. Okay, the initial sip, it comes in not hot, but warm. Some nice spice. It's not overwhelming. It won't burn your tongue. It won't burn your palate. But it is a bit warm. The sherry notes, excuse me. In my opinion, the sherry notes come through more on the palate than on the nose. That apple orchard continues through on the palate. Excuse my son. I am picking up some of that caramelized fruitiness. So when I think a whiskey should taste like licorice, I think it should taste like black licorice. So I don't pick that up here, but it is very candied. It's a sweet dram. Okay, it's got a nice texture, somewhere between almost buttery, but not quite. It's not that thick, but the texture is pretty good, pretty thick. So, stock price for a little bit. That's really good. It's sweet. Sorry, interrupting my price thought just because I was still experiencing. The finish is pretty good too. It lasts, okay? And it continues through. It's mouth-filling, so the texture actually increases, in my opinion, as you take sips from this. All right? Really, really good. This is about 95, I'm gonna say mid to high 90s at the LCBO. I know for a fact it's cheaper elsewhere. So if you have the ability to buy elsewhere, do it. I highly recommend this one. This one's about an A- for me. Okay. 95 at the LCBO is pretty much a standard. Okay. Just to compare, the Tomatin 14 is about 97, 98, and the Tomatin 15 is about 95 as well. So for whatever reason, the 14 is a little bit more expensive than the 15. When you're looking at the $14, $15 range, or year range, you're looking at about $90 to $100, okay? Same with Glengoyne. Your Glenlivets and Glenfiddichs are actually a little bit cheaper around the 15-year-old here. The Highland Park 15-year-old is not available here, so I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I do know that Bowmore 15 Darkest is about $90 as well, so it's well within the standard price range of a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old in the LCBO. Actually, Balvenie 14-year-old goes for about $130. Okay, so that gives you roughly an idea that this is on par, if not maybe a little bit lower than the standard for what the cost is for a 14, 15-year-old Scotch. All right, bourbon tends to be cheaper in Ontario. Canadian whiskeys are a lot cheaper in Ontario. $80 to $100 is probably within your average for a given Scotch in Ontario. There's a lot of Scotch that exceeds $100, and there's some that are lower. So it might not be quite average, but when you're looking at a good quality whiskey, you're probably gonna have to spend around that money. Okay, there are the gems. I've talked about the gems in the past. All right, but it's a reasonable price, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so for a non-chill filter, no added color whiskey, a company that's on their own, they don't have a big name behind them, they are one of the few remaining independent distillers in Scotland. I don't mind spending a little bit extra to help support, because usually great things come from companies that take pride in their own name and not have to worry about competing with other names within the company that owns them, right? And that's seen with some of the bigger ones like Sazerac and Diageo, all right? Although Sazerac has a lot of great expressions, and so does Diageo. Anyway, that's an A-. Really, really good stuff. I would definitely buy another bottle. I would definitely recommend this to a friend. It is a bit hot at first, but take your time with it. Add some water if you need to. I think it's definitely sippable straight, but a couple drops of water to lessen that heat might go a long way for you. Okay, so that's an A-. Next week, I would like to get to my Black Art 4.1 before the 5.1 comes out, because that should be coming out soon. Based on some reviews I've read and some information I've shared with a friend, it looks like the 5.1 is going to be 24 years old. The 4.1 is 23 years old, or at least the minimum whiskey inside that bottle. All right, so hopefully I can get to this one on Monday, and then I would like to do my Weller 12-year-old on Friday. I had an opportunity to try this one, and I was shocked at how good it was. Okay, for the price, this one was about $45 retail, $46 retail, and I know you have to win a lottery to get it, but that says a lot about a brand that's willing to keep their prices at that price range and put out quality whiskey like that. Okay, eventually I'll do a head-to-head with my Van Winkle 12-year-old. I'm looking forward to that. Actually, what I was thinking is, if you look at some of my earlier videos, a friend of mine came over one day and we did a blind taste testing. So I'm planning on reviewing both the the Weller 12 and the Van Winkle 12, and then doing a blind taste test to compare the two. All right, and to see which one's which. Just because I think it would be interesting to find out how much difference there is between the two, knowing that they're pretty much the exact same juice inside each bottle. It's just the casks are different, and the difference in price is substantial. This one was $120 retail, or maybe a little bit more than that, and like I said, this one was $46 retail. So I'm very curious to see how much better the Van Winkle 12 can be. I'm not suspecting that much better, but who knows? I haven't tried it yet, so I really shouldn't judge. But again, this was the Isle of Arran 14-year-old review, and I think that's an A-. You guys can catch me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. On Instagram, I'm at Whisky in the Six. On Twitter, I'm at Whisky_in_the_6. And on Facebook, I'm Rob Reviews. Cheers, guys.